For our second video in week 4, we're talking about triangle similarity conditions. Now this is going to look very similar to stuff that we did last week. Last week we talked about triangle congruence theorems, and we had all the little shortcuts, SSS, SAS, ASA. Well, in the similarity conditions are, talking about similarity. Oh, we are going to review. So let's look at this first problem right here. Do we know if this is similar? So we know that this is 68 and this is 87, so we know that this angle is congruent to this angle right here. And we don't know the measure of this angle yet, but we know that the three angles of a triangle add up to 180. So if we do 68 plus 87 plus x, that's going to equal 180. So we add these two together, we get 155 plus x equals 180. And we subtract 155 from both sides. We're going to get x equals 25. So we know that this angle here is 25 degrees. Well, then this angle is congruent to that angle. Well, and look at what you notice. If this is 25 and this is 87, we know that 25 plus 87 is going to equal 112. And then we add this third angle in, plus x, that's going to equal 180. So we're going to subtract 112 from both sides. We're going to find out that x equals 68 degrees. Well, this is 68, and we can see that all three angles are congruent. So I know that this triangle must be similar to that triangle. If this triangle still had 68, 87, and 25 degrees, but was little tiny like this one, it's not drawn very well, but this is a very small triangle, right? And this is like a medium one or larger one. As long as the angles are the same, then they're similar. But I didn't need to prove that this third triangle was the same. I did have to check this one, because once I knew this was 68 and 87 and that's 25, then all three angles are going to be the same. So I didn't have to prove three angles were the same. I only had to prove that two of the angles are the same. So in similarity, you can have angle, angle. Now I joked last week, whether in live or on video, that with triangle congruency, notice triangle congruency, you don't have an AAA. You have to have at least one side in everything, right? But for this one, you can have, so in triangle congruency, there was no bad words and there's no screaming. In similarity, there can be screaming. You can have AA. So this says if two angles of one triangle are congruent or the same to two angles in a second triangle, then the triangles are similar. Oops, you probably want to see what I'm writing. I'm so sorry. I thought I was under the camera there. So if two angles of one triangle are congruent to two angles in a second triangle, then the triangles are similar. And the symbol for similar is just this little line right here. This means similar. Okay? Similar. All right? So that's like this example up here. This goes with that example. Now, what if I have, let's say I have a 3, a 6, and an 8, and we have a 9, an 18, and a 24. Now we're going to compare the sides. So we need to find that, K, or the scale factor, okay? The scale factor. And we're going to, actually those are not right triangles. Now, how do we line up how do we line up how do we know which side goes which side? Well, I kind of drew it nice and easy, but here's what I'm going to notice. This is the smallest side, this is the medium side, medium, and this is the large side. When I come over here, this is small, medium, large. So you're going to compare the two small sides together. We're going to compare the two medium sizes together. And we're going to compare the large size together. Right. The large size, let's see, a color for large. Let's go with yellow. I'm going to compare all three sides. So the small side is going to be, if I do the first figure over the second figure, 3 over 9, that reduces to 1/3. The medium, you have to keep, the first figure on top and the second figure on the bottom. You have to be consistent through this whole process when you're comparing scale factors. So the medium, since I started the 3 over here, I have to start with a 6. 6 over 18 reduces to 1/3. And for the large, I get 8 over 24, which also equals 1/3. So if all three sides of the two triangles have the same scale factor, the triangles are similar. The triangles are similar. See how math is so much shorter? Triangles, similar. All right, and the next one is going to be talking about side angle side. So let's go ahead and I'm going to make these right triangles. And let's say this is a 2 and this is a 4 and this is a 4 and this is an 8. Okay, so again we have to compare the the corresponding parts. I have 2 right angles. That's nice. I have 2 right angles. Now this is the small side right here, small, large, and for this side this is the small and this is the large. You don't always have to write small and large on it. I'm just doing that because I'm teaching and I'm showing you that those 2 that I just marked in orange correspond with each other, and these 2 that I'm marking in pink correspond with each other. So again, I have to check the scale factor. Okay, check the scale factor. Okay, that's check for K. And the scale factor, if I do 4 over 2, I did the top over the bottom, that reduces to 2. Well, since I started with 4 for this first one, I'm going to have to start with this 8. 8 over 4 equals 2. Okay, good. They have the same scale factor. If the two sides have the same scale factor and the angle between them are congruent, okay, sides, you check scale factor, check K. Angles have to be congruent. Okay, so what did I say? I said if two sides have the same scale factor and one angle between has to be in the middle of the two sides, between them is congruent, then the triangles are similar. Okay? So it's very important. It has to be this order. Let's look at a couple of practice problems, and then some will be your homework. Okay. So with the three shortcuts that we have are AA, SSS, and SAS. So I'm going to write that at the top. We know AA similarity, SSS similarity, and SAS similarity, right? Those are the only three for similarity. So let's check. I have 52 is congruent to, does that one also say 52? No, 32. Okay, we don't know about the 52 yet, but we know that 32 is congruent to 32. Let's see if this is 52. What is 32 plus 96? That's 8, 128. And so we know that those two together, this one, 32, 96, make 128, plus the unknown, this is my unknown, that's going to equal 180. So if we subtract 128 from both sides, we're going to get x equals 52. Yay, it equals 52. So we know that this is 52. I've proven that two of the triangles are congruent. Since two of the triangles are congruent, then that's enough to tell us that the triangles are congruent, and since two of the triangles are congruent, that's enough to prove that the triangles are similar. Triangle similarity. Okay, let's look at the next one. So we're going to check the scale factor. Okay, and I'm going to see what lines up with what. We have this side matches up with this side. We have this angle in the middle matches up. Right, so I know my angles are congruent because they have the same arc mark. See, they have one arc mark, and then this side matches up with this side. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 14 over 44.8, and we're going to take 20 over 64. Those are our proportions, and we're going to type them into the calculator, and when we type them into the calculator, we get 0.3125 for this one, and we get 0.3125 for this one. I used the calculator. Now this number is the same. So since they're the same, I have a side, the angles in between them, so side, angle, side. The order of that angle matters. Okay? Let's look at this one right below. I'm going to go a little out of order. So I'm going to see, what are the small sides? The small side is this 18, and it matches with this 90. So one of our fractions is going to be 18 over 90. We want to see what that is. Another one is, let's see, the middle number. This is the middle number, and this is the middle number down here. So since I did the 18 first, and the 18 came from this top triangle, I have to do 44 over 202.4. We have to see what that calculates out to. And then the last one, I'll just do it in my pen, is going to be 58 over 211.2. Now I'm going to type this in the calculator. So we get our calculator out. This one I get 0.20. Right, we just type that right in the calculator. 44 divided by 202.4 is 0.22, and 58 divided by 211.2 is 0.27. Now notice how all three of my scale factors, all three of my proportions, have a different number or a different ratio. These are not the same. So since they're not the same, this is not congruent. Okay. In this problem right here, you have two triangles. You have two triangles, the small one here and then the large one. So one thing to do is to separate it. Here's the top one. This is MHN. And then here's the large one. And then that angle's marked. And this is MLS. So we can easily see that, okay, this angle is congruent to that angle. Now, do I have any other angle that's congruent? Nothing's marked. But notice how this begins, how this angle is angle M and this angle is angle M. So this angle is the same for both of those. See this top little piece? It's used in the little triangle and it's used in the big triangle. So that's using that reflexive property. And notice now I have two angles. So what property is that? Angle, angle, similarity. Do the rest of this page on your own for homework.